on you.
Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go. Woo!
Just one before we die. This is Purple Daily's Before I Die. I'm Jessi. He's Leighton. He's Jason. You guys, we got to enjoy a Sunday a little bit because the Minnesota Vikings embarrassed us on Thursday. So we didn't have to watch a monstrosity happen again on Sunday. The loss was so bad Thursday, you guys, in case we forgot, which of course you didn't. Of course, we're here to remind you how bad it was. That Leighton here, our good friend, didn't think that the Vikings players deserved to eat.
No.
Yep. No, that's pretty much how that came across. That's how the tweet came across. Ocho Cinco found it. It popped off. Please walk us through the decision to take to social media your frustrations after seeing, and I forget, was Ivan Pace Jr.?
Ivan Pace.
Okay.
Yep.
Posting his In-N-Out dinner after suffering, again, what was a very embarrassing loss on Thursday.
Yeah, very embarrassing loss. First of all, I do want Vikings players to eat. I do want them to eat. I want them to eat whatever they want. I do not care what they eat. And now, looking back on the tweet, I probably should have reworded it, but no regrets whatsoever. The thing is, let me look at my notes here because I want to make sure I get this right. I want to make sure I get this right. Again, I do not care what professional athletes eat. I don't care what their diet is because that's just a stupid thing to care about. I never had a problem with him eating the In-N-Out. The problem is you just let a third-string running back in Kaimi Vidal run for 117 yards down your throat and a touchdown on national TV, and then less than an hour after the game, you're just casually posting In-N-Out on your Instagram story like nothing just happened. That's where it was so unserious for me because we're all online having this monster debate about where this Vikings franchise is going, the moves we need to make. Everyone's overreacting, worst regular season loss in however long. And then we just got Ivan Pace, who's on this defense, who just let up 37 points, posting 2 double cheeseburgers on his story. And that's where it's unserious. And people are like, oh, you don't think NFL players are real people? I know they're real people. I've been fortunate enough to meet some of these guys, and I know how real they are, and I know they're just another one of us. It's just, it was so unserious, and
you felt it was tone deaf.
Story.
I feel like
yes,
tone deaf
exactly.
is what you're getting, right? Like you felt it
so
was a little ignoring the fact that you guys just played terribly, lost to the Chargers Thursday in front of everybody. So you felt the tone deaf was the biggest problem.
100%. He could have posted anything on his story 45 minutes after the game, and it's completely tone deaf. It's like, what are we doing? And I wasn't even, again, I should have probably reworded it, but at the same time, it's whatever. I don't really care what faceless accounts on Twitter have to say about
faceless accounts like Chad Ochocinco, mind you.
Well, you responded with a GIF. Chad Ochocinco.
Both times too, in fact.
Yeah, both times. You was back.
Yeah.
So
here's the other thing. And then my podcast partner texts me and says, dude, I'm just dying at you getting cooked right now. Like, thanks. Way to just pile on.
Cooked like an In-N-Out burger.
Look, hey, here's the thing though. But you said it, and you said, no, hey, I'll stand by it. And I respect that. But I'm going to play devil's advocate because in a general sense, like, do I think it was a great look? Probably not. But I think the best take on it that I saw in reply to you was from Aaron Henderson, former Viking, which was, hey, this is some petty stuff I would pull after I wasn't allowed to play either. Just, hey, no pain out of my game.
He was on the field, though.
Well, I mean, not as much as he has been, right? Like, he was pretty much benched all of the Eagles game. He's obviously getting less reps. So I think some people took it as like maybe that because he really doesn't have quite the role he had. I don't think it was that. I don't know for sure, but that would be kind of funny. What I took offense to is somebody who, anyone who knows me knows I moved here from Arizona, but originally I'm from California, is the thread in which you called In-N-Out trash. And I can tell you don't quite understand In-N-Out because you keep saying double cheeseburger when any real In-N-Out understander
Yeah,
would
I
be
don't.
using the
I live
correct
in Minnesota.
terminology. Well, but previously you said that you've had In-N-Out multiple times. I'm going to
I
be the
have.
cross-examiner right now. So
I
you should
have.
know to show the respect to call it a double-double. I will say I am incredibly glad. I'm incredibly glad, Leighton, that you gave us something fun to talk about instead of coming in here after 3 days ready to absolutely lose our minds.
True.
So I do appreciate you doing that work.
You're welcome.
Sacrifices were made.
Yes.
And do you stand by
Yeah.
your decision to say that In-N-Out is in fact trash? The people would like to know before we rest the case.
Again, probably should have reworded it. Extremely overrated. Extremely overrated.
What are you ordering? Like, how do you order when you've had In-N-Out? Do you just order it like as is, like number 1, number 2, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Well, see,
I'll
you can
give I'll
sit
give
here
some
and say,
grace.
"Oh, you don't know the ins. You don't know the
ins and outs?
In-N-Out burger." And I don't. I live in
I get it.
Minnesota.
Okay. I'm gonna give you grace for that reason. But whenever I show you Arizona, California, whatever it is, you got to do it right. You got to do animal style, and you got to go animal style on the fries. Complete game change. If you don't like it,
The fries are so beyond trash. It's unbelievable.
I could go on. Look, I will give you grace and I will forgive you of your transgressions because as an In-N-Out aficionado, there are things you learn over time to get the peak In-N-Out experience that you simply don't have. So I can't blame you, but I will forgive you and I will encourage you to try it again with some recommendations from the experts.
So how good is In-N-Out if you have to go and know all of these hidden item
it's not much. It's not much.
Know how to
Animal
order
style.
order
Animal
it to your
styles.
liking, when I can just roll up to Five Guys or Culver's, order what's on the menu and
Okay.
get much better tasting food.
Culver's is good. I will say Five Guys for the price, nah, ain't doing
Well,
it.
then everyone talks about
All-
In-N-Out's price, and it's like, yeah, I'm paying less for a crappy burger. What?
Oh, okay.
What,
See,
what are
you
we
keep
talking
you
about?
keep throwing these issues out there in this terminology.
These
I don't think you quite
adjectives,
realize.
these adjectives.
Here's
that
what
think
I
you
would
just-
say. I think most people who've even from out of state, they know the term animal style. Grilled onions. They grill the burger in mustard, which sounds weird, but it works. It creates a very good crust on the burger. Extra spread and extra pickle. It is a game changer. Trust me and reevaluate next time you get the opportunity. I will even pay for it. If you're in California covering some like crazy high school game, modern day game, whatever it is, you're in Arizona, text me and say, I'm going to In-N-Out. I'll tell you what to order and I will pay for it just to have a chance to change your mind.
All right, here's what I'm doing. This is why I'm queen at segues. So you're saying JJ McCarthy is the animal style of In-N-Out, and Carson Wentz is probably just the basic version. And so we've unfortunately found the trash version of In-N-Out with Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy coming back to play Sunday against the Detroit Lions. We're going animal style with it, huh? What do you think?
I wouldn't describe what Carson Wentz did out there as any sort of edible food. And also, obviously, he was injured, and that's a large part of it. I think the biggest conversation was why was he still allowed out there after a certain point? I know KOC said that Carson said he was fine. I would hope Carson would want to go back into that game. Like, he's playing on his childhood team. This is probably his last chance to really salvage his career. I'd hope he wouldn't take himself out, but yeah, that was rough. That was not a great situation to see him out there in. And for as much as some of us want to see McCarthy out there, for as much as maybe Carson's play frustrated us as a veteran who should be making smarter reads, you have to feel for him and the pain he was in. You could see it at the end of that game. And I think was it Al Michaels who was calling the game, just absolutely roasting him, saying it was like inappropriate for him to be acting out like
It was Kirk Herbstreit.
Herbstreit, yeah. I don't know why I mixed that up. But Herbstreit, yeah. What I think the guy's shoulder is like broken. Give the guy some grace. He was out there as basically a sacrificial lamb behind a patchwork O-line just to keep McCarthy or Brosmer from getting hurt. I think the guy had a right to be frustrated.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, no.
Now-
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I Jason.
Well, I was just going to shift gears. As much as the loss is still frustrating, we had another game coming up in a week, right? So I was just going to try to shift our focus to the week ahead. Ian Rappaport shared that McCarthy is expected to be back in action for the Vikings when they take on the Lions, assuming his health doesn't endure any setbacks. backs in the days leading up. Do we need to see McCarthy? Like, is it kind of one of those things? Like, if you're 90%, we're comfortable putting him in there, or what's our take at Leighton? We'll start with you. Do you need to see McCarthy, even if it's not 100?
Yeah, you need to see him. There's no way in heck he's not less healthy than Wentz. Like, there's no possible way you're going to put Wentz out there after, one, the performance, and two, how injured he looked after Thursday's game. And even KOC said on Monday of last week that if it wasn't a short week, it would have been different for McCarthy going into the Chargers game. So I think that can kind of give you some confidence on where now he has another extended period of time to get healthy. You need to see him. And I'm not afraid to say these next 10 games are probably some of the most important games this franchise is ever going to see, because the amount of time and just value in picks and everything they've invested into McCarthy, and then what they've invested into the roster, with it being one of the most expensive rosters in the NFL, you need to see what you have. And if you don't have anything after 10 games, there's going to be some serious switch up. There's going to be something happening this offseason. But like, these 10 games are so important for not only McCarthy and his career and himself moving forward, but everybody in that locker room, everybody in the front office, because they've devoted so much into one guy. And the highest overall drafted quarterback in Vikings history, there's so much pressure on him right now. And I'm going to make a video later today about how I don't think there's ever been more pressure for a guy going into his third start ever in the NFL.
How much can JJ change this offense's identity, Jason? Run versus pass and just everything what we've seen from Carson Wentz. And again, yes, we will give him the grace with him being injured and battling through that. But Leighton's right. This is the franchise quarterback. This franchise has never had that opportunity, and unfortunately, they've been put in this crappy situation right now. But
you can say how you really feel.
It is what it is. But just having JJ back changes this offense dramatically, it feels.
It changes it as much as KOC will allow it to change. I think we saw some hints of that even in week one. Like, that last play McCarthy had for the touchdown was a read option. How many times have we seen a Vikings quarterback do that, right? It was obviously KOC in a unique situation saying, light bulb, I have a guy who can do this. Then against Atlanta, it was just classic KOC play calling in a situation where McCarthy and the team around him didn't really warrant that being a successful brand of football. Since then, we've seen, especially with, a third string center who wasn't even a center before this year, things like that. We've seen KO start to implement the quick game more. I think Thursday he implemented a lot of quick game more than people realized as well. But if he allows, I've said I'm a big McCarthy believer, but I've even said he's not going to be a Sam Darnold or a Kirk throwing 350, 400 yards very often. I don't even know if we'll ever see that, but that's okay. But utilize what he's good at: short, accurate passes, the ability to check one or two reads and then decide to take out of the pocket, especially with this type of Lions pass rush you're facing. I've seen people online say, oh, we're throwing him out to the Wolves. This is a terrible first game back. There's no such thing as an easy matchup in the NFL. And to Leighton's point, because Leighton said it perfectly, if this doesn't work, the stakes have never been higher for everybody involved with this team. This is the biggest gamble in franchise history, other than maybe the Herschel Walker trade. This is incredibly huge. And I think it comes down, that type of conversation comes down less to how are the big signings doing or how is their health, because we've seen inconsistency all around there, and more about, is JJ getting better every week and is he staying healthy? I think those are the things that will define the positive long-term outlook of what this season means. We just have to get them out there. I don't care who the competition is. Yeah, it's tough, but at the end of the day, we have to find out.
Do you think fans' expectations were realistic heading into the season? Because I'll admit, I looked at this roster for the Vikings, and while I had my questions about JJ McCarthy, I said this was a Super Bowl. I got the tattoo, right? Like, I did the whole thing. I believed on paper this looked like a Super Bowl contending team. Was I just completely in la la land? Did I miss something? Did I understand the roster structure or the systems that were going to be implemented? Because, yes, I think JJ obviously was a huge factor in that. But also, it seems like there's the squad in general from top to bottom has just been very, very underwhelming at this point.
No, I think you had your expectations right. I mean, they won 14 regular season games last year. And although it fell apart in the playoffs, it's not unrealistic to think the Vikings were going to be better this season than they were last. When you look on paper, the roster this season was way better than it was last season. And it's not unrealistic to think they had Super Bowl aspirations. I mean, that's what they assembled this team to do. The two things, the offense and defensive line that held them back so much last season, they totally revamped both of them. So it was totally realistic to have those expectations. And I do 100% think this season is 100 times out of 100 times different if everyone stays healthy and everyone's able to play consistently. It's more of just a matter of fact, once one guy goes down and then another and then another and then another, not only injuries that like, okay, this guy's going to play and then first drive in, he's done. You know, Brian O'Neill, he's done. Those are the injuries that will totally take you out of a game because you prepare a game plan for who's going to be out there, who's going to play. And then as soon as they get hurt, everything completely switches on a drop of a dime in game. And it's completely, it's way more difficult to make adjustments than it is for preparing for like a Darisaw who you knew was going to miss the first 2 weeks. But no, it's not unrealistic to have those expectations at all. I mean, the Vikings roster was, and I guess is better on paper than it was last season, but it's just too many injuries. And I know, yes, you need to be more prepared for injuries happening, and you probably need to look at a long list of like what could possibly go wrong and how do we prepare for this before the season. But at the same time, it just gets to a point. I mean, the 49ers had that season last year. So many guys just got hurt, and you can't. Sometimes it's just impossible to bounce back from those guys getting hurt.
Jay, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, looking in just the example of last Thursday, the Vikings were outgained by almost 300 yards. They gave up double the time of possession, right? There are obviously factors with injuries. Depth is a big issue. I do think that the biggest thing with this coaching staff, and people saying give up play calling, all that, no, I'm not there yet. Personally, I know the boys talked about it with their hot takes on Friday. I'm personally not there, but I do think that the point that they made about adjustments, both from Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores being the area of opportunity, are big. My biggest thing I'm nervous about specifically going into Detroit is I think they set the blueprint of how offenses are attacking Flores' defense right now, which is a lot of passes over the middle. Buy yourself some time, and you're going to find success there. They found it very consistently the last few years, picking up third and longs to St. Brown over the middle with nobody near him, who would just kind of sit down in the gaps in the zone. Those are things that we saw a lot from the Chargers, right? So adjustments and being able to not let the other team know what's coming. That's what Sean McVay said to Kevin O'Connell after the game in Arizona last year, the playoff game. He said, we knew exactly what you were going to do. That adjustment, at the end of the day, Leighton made a great point. Like, the injuries are the injuries. You can't just snap your finger and change that and have players that are just as high quality. I think that not only does the roster need to grow and adjust and handle the adversity, but I think the coaching staff does too. But as far as the team on paper, I couldn't agree more. There should have been high expectations. There should be pressure on McCarthy. You know how every quarterback in his class would have taken less money to go to Minnesota at pick 10 or 11. They would have taken a lower contract just to have a chance to play with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So yes, there should be pressure.
Right.
And it was a roster made for a rookie quarterback. Like, it was a roster made to do the bare minimum from a quarterback standpoint. And then that completely flew out the window once the offensive line just went up in flames.
Yeah,
And
I do
just-
think the run game is still something where even when we've seen the offensive line mostly healthy, I do think is a little underutilized, maybe outside the Cincinnati game where we had a big lead because of the defense. You did intentionally set up this running back duo, and so far we haven't really seen that 1-2 punch when both were on the field be utilized to the extent we thought we would. I think that would take some weight off, to your point, Leighton. Like, that's a good thing for a young quarterback to have. Hopefully we see that in Detroit because we're going to need to.
Yeah, gauntlet of games. You guys coming up in Detroit. You've got the Ravens, where you may or may not see Lamar Jackson return, but they don't know if he practices or not. That whole situation is kind of a mess for Baltimore, in case you missed it. Plus, you've got the Bears, the Packers, and then the Seahawks and Commanders coming up here. How many of these games, Leighton, we'll start with you, are winnable? Excuse me. And how many of these games are must win at this point, too? Because you are getting deeper and deeper into the season, and that must win factor is arguably that it's there all the time. But especially with the position that the Vikings have put themselves in, how many games are winnable and how many are must wins for sure?
I think they're all winnable because it's the NFL and it's a week to week league. And, you know, the Falcons go out and beat the Bills and they look like world beaters against the Bills and the Vikings. And then they go out and lay an egg against the Dolphins. And yeah, Kirk Cousins was playing. Have no idea how Kirk Cousins was a 7-point favorite when he hasn't played a game in so long. That was so crazy to me. I bet on the Dolphins. That was easy. But no, they're all winnable. It's the NFL. It's a week-to-week league. And specifically the Vikings, as soon as you count them out and as soon as you think they're dead in the water, they somehow just pull you back in and just make you believe. So do I think they're going to beat the Lions? No. Do I think it could be competitive? Yes. That's just the way the NFL is. And how many are must wins? I think they're all must wins because you need all the momentum in the world heading in the next season. And every single win you're able to stack up on top of each other, whether you're going to sneak into the playoffs or not. But with this gauntlet of a schedule, 10 games left, if you're able to go 5-5, that's some momentum that you can carry over into the next season to where, I don't know, if you lose 4 in a row and then win 1 and then lose 4 in a row and then you play the Packers in week 18 who are resting their starters because they got the 1 seed locked up. It's like, what momentum do we really have? And that's where stuff is going to have to change. So I think, like I said, these are the 10 most important games this franchise has seen in a very long time. So I think you need to win as many as humanly possible.
Jason, the Detroit Lions have had the Vikings number. There is a 6-game win streak currently against Minnesota. How important is it to start this rebound of a season for the Vikings in Detroit? It's a tall order to do so, but is it attainable?
I mean, it's a divisional game, right? These divisional games are always, I mean, like Leighton said, any given Sunday with any game, but these divisional games, like, you know your opponent very well. And we should know how the Lions have beaten us these last few years. And this is really going to be the test of this free agency class, healthy or not. They were picked to stop Detroit mainly and specifically, right? So we need to see a big game from Allen Hargrave, right? These defensive interior players. We need to see the offensive line, regardless of who's on it. It seems like O'Neal and Darisaw should be out there based on reports. We need to see them hold and protect for the run and pass game, right? I think it's winnable. I think it's going to be the hardest game left on their schedule because you're playing right now the best team in the division and you're playing in their home den, no pun intended. I think that this is going to be a massive challenge. If the team comes out next Sunday with a win, I think sky's the limit as far as what they could potentially do on a week in, week out basis. We just talked about
how podcast would be completely different on Monday if they win on Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, it would be great. And just as a reminder for anybody listening, we will be doing a watch party at Mystic Lake, free admission this Sunday. Score North Purple Daily. Be there. You know, it's what I do. It's why I'm here. Right. But I do think it's winnable. I think you know what they do. And obviously they have different coordinators and things like that. But like Dan Campbell's team identity is still Dan Campbell's team identity. You know that Gibbs is the number one thing you need to adjust for. What you don't want to do and what you can't afford to do, and we saw this with the Eagles, was sell out so hard against the run that you open it up to the passing game to flourish because our DBs are inconsistent, to say the least. So it's going to be interesting to see the approach. But if I see Amon-Ra pick up multiple third downs and convert them just open in the middle of the field, like we do every year, I'm just going to lose my mind. I'm so sick of seeing him do that against us. I cannot stand it.
I can't stand losing to the Lions. The way their fans talk is just
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
I will say this, just based off what happened last year, I would very much expect most of the Vikings wives and the wags, so to speak, not to be at this game after their experience in Detroit last year. So I'm hoping the guys who were around last year come in with some extra motivation to shut these fans down and to make a statement.
Well, let me say this. Lions fans don't know how to act online because they've never been good when the internet has been invented. So.
I was going to say there's an easy layup there, right? Like we'll go with that. Let's jump into some comments from YouTube to start wrapping this week's episode up. First one I found coming from Sammy Sarsoza. He says, I was born into this. I'll always be a Vikings fan. I hate this team. So my question to you as Leighton, we'll start with you. Do you wish your parents would have saved you from this despair? And will you save your own children by pushing them into another team's fandom? Or will you say, nope, this is our lot in life because you are a Minnesotan. Here we go.
Yeah, that's a $1 million question there. More specifically for me, because my longtime girlfriend is a Packers fan. So
tough go.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
You got an Adam
Thielen
Thielen situation going on there.
Yeah, so there's going to be a conversation to be had. I've always said I love being a Vikings fan, which I do. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to make a kind of a career off being a Vikings fan with just my love for football, which is always nice. And believe it or not, the pain and the misery sells online. So that's a great angle to look at it from. But I've also always said that the first Super Bowl that the Vikings win, assuming they win one before I die, I mean, that is just an unfathomable thought to think about, that I could go 70 more years without seeing it. That's just crazy. Assuming they win one, that first one and the celebration is all going to be worth these podcasts when I look back at it, to where if I was a Jets fan and they won Super Bowl 2 or 3, what does that do me? Like, that doesn't do anything for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and wake up every Monday after the Jets. Congrats to the Jets for winning their first game. But 1-7, I'm not going to be, oh, well, we won Super Bowl 3, so I'm all right. And I love being a Jets fan because there's always hope.
We'll be able to say we won Super Bowl 98.
What?
We'll be able to say we won like Super Bowl 98. That's a terrible number for me to pick.
I was going to say for you, I thought you said we won the Super Bowl in 98. I was like, how dare you bring that back up?
This is year 60, right? So 40 years. We'll call it Super Bowl 100.
No, I'll put my kids through the misery, and I think it'll honestly be healthy for me to just be like, man, I was there.
You guys don't know how hard it's been.
Oh, that's what my dad always says too. And it's like, dude, no, I do know. My dad saw the Twins win a World Series when he was 18 and 21. So I'm like, dude, you had it. Like, you at least got a taste of it. Maybe that's worse, though. Maybe it's worse that he got a taste and now he hasn't had it since.
It makes me feel like I'm closer in age to your dad than you now, because I was alive for those wins as well.
Yeah, I was not even close. Not even close.
Let's not do math. We don't need to worry about that. I know. I saw my dad cry watching the Vikings, so it's like I've had that pit of despair in my heart forever, because I was like, this man is crying over this football team, and this is really hard to watch. Like, this is actually painful to see. Jason, you could kind of go either way, although I feel like you've committed so hard to the Vikings that they obviously have no choice, right?
I mean, people like to joke online that I moved for football. Well, I moved to Leighton's point, this is kind of a career now, and luckily I've been able to leverage this into that. But I mean, this right here, right? Anyone who knows my story knows my dad became a Vikings fan just because growing up in Southern California, he turned on the TV, living off the Marine base, and there happened to be a lot of Minnesota troops over there, so they'd show the Vikings games, and that I moved out here to see a parade. I didn't expect to see, My Chemical Romance's Black Parade this season, as far as just emo, depressing sadness. But I came out here for that opportunity, and I think it's going to happen at some point, just mathematically, right? You think, what's the greatest drought in history? The Cubs, 100 years. All right, we're at 65, 64. I can make it till I'm 70. We're good. I don't want to, but we're probably there. But yeah, no, I named my son after Case Keenum. I have a picture of him right here, his first Halloween in a Justin Jefferson jersey. I unfortunately will be making sure my kids understand the fruits of pain that come from being a Vikings fan. And they're very likely growing up here. I grew up in Southern California, Dodgers fan. My son wants to be a Twins fan. Okay, interesting decision. Go ahead and do it. But it builds
choice
character.
Is there. That's
It builds character. And I'll tell you this, that celebration Leighton's talking about, it's going to be -10, whatever it is. I don't care. I will be out there probably underdressed just to really embrace the cold, maybe a little Bud Grant tribute. But I cannot wait, and I hope my kids are there with me.
I will
Jason
say
also has the Dodgers in his life, though, so that makes things
right. Like
true.
Like full-on Minnesota sports fans. It's almost like we do wear it as a badge of honor. Like, well, our team's worse. Like, our teams are worse than your. I
couldn't do what you guys. Like I've said, I'll go to a Wild game. I'm not a huge hockey fan.
Probably don't do that this year either. Like that.
Yeah,
is a terrible decision. That is.
People are blaming me for this happening. By the way, I've been blamed that since I showed up, all Minnesota sports have collapsed. Have you followed Minnesota sports?
Yeah.
Long term, even I know. This isn't new.
Yeah. Yes. No, it is. But it's funny because then you even get into those riffs with other fans. Like you bring up the Jets last night. The Minnesota Wild did play. They lost. But one of the writers he's a Jets fan. And he's like, well, I'm a Jets fan, so I don't really feel bad for Vikings fans either. And I'm like, well, we're worse. It's worse for us because we've never won. And so you almost battle at like which fan base is sadder. And it's like, we're all sad. None of us are Boston, right? Like none of us are New England.
I posted a list of the 21 starting quarterback. I think I missed a couple too. I accidentally left out Josh Freeman, probably my brain protecting myself. And it was just Browns fans being like, nice try, buddy. And I'm like, I wasn't saying anything about you.
Yeah, you never try.
Just forget that Boston was Minneapolis before this insane run that they went on. Like they never won anything.
Yeah,
they never won anything. And then
they were cursed.
Now I'm hoping Minneapolis goes on.
I still laugh at like the kids that have like they expected a parade. Like Charlie Coyle, former Minnesota Wild hockey player, played with from Boston, and he had said he's like, I would expect a parade all the time as a kid because there was they were just winning constantly. Like those kids have a lifetime of parades and just spoiled and selfish, and I hate it. That's going to be our only comment for YouTube because I thought it was wonderful. I loved it. Great conversation. As always, let us know what you think of this week's episode, how the Vikings are going to do, if JJ in fact is the starter, how he's going to fare. Don't forget to check out all the other Purple Daily content. We will wrap it up with a before I die, I will stop wearing high heels to sporting events that I'm covering because it just inevitably ends up with me walking barefoot down West 7th to go get a adult libation following a game, which is probably gross and dangerous and all of the above. But I like the heels. They work for a time being, but before I die, I will learn that that's not my lot in life. So I'm sure you boys can relate.
One request, before you do that, just take a video of you walking on the ice in those.
I do that too. Yeah, I live on the edge. I definitely live on the edge. I will admit, our producer today, AJ, can attest to this. He can confirm I tripped on my heels when I was putting them back on outside of the bar. Not because I had too many drinks either, because I literally can't wear high heels because I'm not a grown-ass adult. I apologize for that. So that's such life. It's great. Fantastic. As always, Purple Daily content. All week long, as well as other Minnesota sports. You got Judd's Hockey Show. You got Wolves back in action. We love to see that. And as Jason had mentioned, Purple Daily out at Mystic on Sunday for watch party as the Vikings take on the Detroit Lions. We will catch you next week. On behalf of Leighton, Jason, and AJ, our producer today, we will catch you next week. Skål.
Sorry, Ivan Base.